Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and in 6th grade, my stepdad told me that Apple would be one of the worst companies to invest in because they give away their computers free to school. In fact, a $100 investment at the time would be worth over $8,290 today. Kids, see, parents don't know. Okay, let's get into today's interview.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast with Raymond Hatfield, the podcast dedicated to interviewing world-class photographers to ask them the questions you want answered. Whether you want to be the world's best wedding photographer, family photographer, pet photographer, or you just want to take better photos of your kids growing up, we will get you to start taking better photos today. Here with you as always, husband, father, home brewer, LA Dodgers fan, and award-winning Indianapolis wedding photographer, Raymond Hatfield.
Oh, welcome one, welcome all to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. This is going to be one that you are going to be so happy that you did not miss. I promise you, this I personally think is going to go down in the record books as one of the top 5 greatest episodes of the Beginner Photography Podcast of all time. Like, as I continue to go on with this thing, it is one that it's going to unlock a lot of doors for you, and I'm really excited to get into it. And today's guests actually have quite a giveaway that I am excited to tell you about at the end of the interview. But first, whether this is your first or 94th episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast, I want to thank you for joining me today. I don't know where you are at in your journey along this road of photography, but maybe you are brand new and you need help figuring out how to get your camera to work, and I want to help you do that. I want to invite you to sign up for our free 14-day video course over at the beginnerphotographypodcast.com. If you just scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see the sign up right there. It is a, like I mentioned, free 14-day video course. You're going to get a brand new video emailed to you every single day. There's no commitments. There's no time constraints. It's only between 2 and 4. There's none of that. You can do this at your own pace, and the best part is it's 100% free. The listeners who have taken the course and have gone through it have all emailed me telling me that it is something that is refreshing, something that they don't see often. It is not talked about much, all the content that I share, and they have gotten a ton of value and have grown as photographers. So I am really happy and excited to share this with you, and I really hope that you will take me up on my offer and that you will give it a try. So again, if you're interested in becoming a better photographer in just 14 days, head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and you're going to be able to see the sign up right there. Secondly, the podcast is growing at an ever-increasingly fast pace. It has been wonderful to see the progress of the podcast as to where I was just a year ago. And I've purposely made some decisions to not have sponsors on the podcast because that's not where I want to take this podcast. I feel like there would be a little bit of disingenuous information if I had sponsors on the podcast. So therefore, I'm not doing it. But if you are finding value in this podcast and you have left a review for us in the iTunes store, there's another way that you can support the podcast and keep this thing going. And that is by simply shopping on Amazon through our affiliate link. If you head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, you'll see a link right there on the homepage that'll take you right to Amazon. It won't cost you an extra penny, and yet everything that you buy on Amazon will give us a tiny kickback as a thank you for sending you their way. And again, it is just a wonderfully easy way to support the podcast by doing something that you are already doing. So again, just head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, and if you want to support the podcast, you just click on that Amazon link right there, and I thank you immensely. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get on into this interview right now. I am so excited for this one. As an educator of photography, one of the biggest questions that I get all the time is, how do I pose people? What do I tell them what to do? How do I do? Are there certain ways to angle. There's so much that like is unknown as photographers when you're first starting to get into posing. And after today's interview, man, I came to this realization that depending on how you got into photography, there are completely different ways to look at posing your subjects. And I'm just so lucky to have spoke with today's guests, Meg and Josh Souder, about their relationship with photography and how they got started doing what they're doing. If there is just a quick backstory, they have created a set of posing cards. They're actually unposed cards that don't say, hey, tell people to get together chest to chest, put the hand, here and do that. It's none of that. And it has really turned my photography and put it in a new direction and has made me enjoy it more. So listening back to this interview, there are parts where it kind of sounds like it's an ad for Unposed cards, and I apologize if it ever gets to that point, but that's not where I was going. I had genuine questions that I wanted to ask, that I wanted to know, but I think that I am genuinely excited about this product, and I loved talking about it. So therefore, it might have came off that way. If you have any questions about the Unposed cards, feel free to ask me, or feel free to ask Meg and Josh, as they will be in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. And like I mentioned earlier, they have an amazing giveaway that I am excited to tell you about at the end of the interview. So without any further ado, let's just go on and get into this interview with Meg and Josh Souder. Today's guests are Meg and Josh Souder, Nashville, Tennessee wedding and engagement photographers who are serious posing ninjas. They're the creators of the Unposed Field Guide, and I'm excited to find out more about them and dive into the world of posing. So Meg, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I alluded to you two being posing ninjas there in the intro, but if we step back, I'm sure that you two didn't start out that way. Can you share how you both got your start in photography?
Yeah. We're actually unposing ninjas.
Yes.
Oh, why didn't I think of that? That's so much smarter.
Go ahead.
Well, we live in Nashville, and we moved to Nashville both to do music originally. And we were doing music together, doing the singer-songwriter thing. And at one point we needed photos of ourselves for like promotional material. And a friend of a friend, this husband and wife, ended up shooting some photos for us. And they were really wedding photographers. And just our experience with them and that one shoot was super organic and unlike anything we'd ever done before. I guess we were just used to like posed headshot type thing. And it was just an amazing experience. And those photographers are the Parsons in Kansas City, and they're awesome. Check them out. Anyways, so at that time we're kind of burning out on music, and it just sort of felt natural to get a camera and play around. And
yeah, we were taking some music promo shots for a friend, and then her friend was getting married and was like, I need some references for wedding photographers. Do you know anybody? And then our friend was like, yeah, Meg and Josh, they're artsy. They can take your photos, So we shot our first wedding with one camera, one 16 to 35 lens that we just handed back and forth for 8 hours.
So it was like everyone's heads were stretched.
Yep.
And it was a night. Like, I don't even think we got a flash. It was really
no flash. We shot a lot of wide angle vertically. We had no idea, but we knew that we loved it. And so we just dove in. And that fall we had 2 weddings knowing nothing. And then the next year we looked and we had like 40 weddings booked on the calendar, and we were like, we still know nothing, and we've only shot 2 weddings. holy crap, it's going to be that whole fake it till you make it kind of thing, you know.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Yeah.
How did you two?
faster than our music did. So our music slowed down, and then all of a sudden we were like, okay, and now we are photographers.
Yeah.
So
I guess we should buy another camera.
So we got another
Maybe
camera.
one more lens too, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just one.
So how did you two educate yourself in photography, just kind of being thrown into it?
We still don't know what we're doing.
Great question.
No, you know,
Just playing around in YouTube and just shooting and shooting and shooting until we're like, oh, and just playing around with buttons and I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we literally were like, what's aperture? How do you spell that? Look that up. Like, babe, look, like, look, my finger's in focus and everything else is blurry. This is so cool.
That's
like,
what we've always wanted.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I feel like a lot of our success came from our heart was right the whole time. Like, because we didn't get into it from a techie point of view and we weren't like geeking out on that stuff, the real emotion and all of the stuff of why we want to take photos was coming out, and that kept propelling us forward. And like I still don't know half of the things my camera can do, you know, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
We've always just been more focused on the experience and the emotion and really just trying to capture the vibe of the day. And it's like, you know.
Well, for doing all this guess and check kind of, you guys have really made quite a name for yourself. And, you know, just looking at you guys' reviews online, it's like everybody loves you guys. So congratulations. I mean, really, you guys have really found that creative outlet that maybe you guys were looking for in music that is now getting channeled through photography, and you guys are really making huge strides. So I want to congratulate you guys there. And so I kind of want to talk about how I found you guys, and it was through your Unposed Field guide. So posing is a bit of a four-letter word for beginners, right? And it seems, I love this, the journey is always exactly the same. Somebody gets really good with the camera, they start taking pictures, and then somebody gets in front of that camera, and then suddenly photography is a nightmare. They don't know how to tell people what to do, and then that stress often makes them swear off shooting people forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you two kind of define what posing is, I guess, before we go forward?
The P word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
how about this? How about you guys tell me about your journey when you first started, how you two started posing?
I think for us, coming from the music industry and him and I doing a lot of like just singer-songwriter shows, we always had like a banter between us and the audience. And we didn't ever want awkward silence, and we were just very like reading our audience constantly. And so I think it's sort of just like accidentally happened when we started shooting people, of just like making sure, are they okay? Are they having a good time? How can I make them happier?
Feel more comfortable, feel better about themselves. And then we were just doing our shtick
Sort of.
as we're walking around shooting. And then I'm looking at the photos we're getting, and I'm like, these are amazing. And then the next thing you know, the shoot's done. And we were like, awesome, cool. That was so easy. And
then it just kind of became like, hey, I wish we had more movement in our photos. How could we do that? Oh, let's play this game. And it was like here's a problem we're having. How could we solve it using the skills we have?
right.
Does that make sense?
And
Yes.
how to give them an experience. So there's kind of,
Because we're artists and we're creatives, we're constantly probably too worried about what our audience is feeling.
yeah. And so then after 10 years of shooting, we came up with the Unposed Field guide in like 5 minutes, because it was really all of the stuff we had been doing for 10 years. It was like all of our goofy games and questions and interactions. We're like, I think this stuff could benefit so many other photographers. And,
Sure.
and I know it seems funny. It's just our shtick and our little thing that we do, but maybe it could benefit people. So we bottled it up and put it on our website, and, you know, it's been selling all over the world. And we're to think about the effect it's had. is mind blowing. Like
when it's just something that came naturally to us because we felt like we needed to do that for our clients or couples or just people on the other end, other side of the lens.
Well, I think you two had a bit of a, I think it's a bit different with you two, because I think when most people get into photography, maybe they have the idea of that they want to become a portrait or a wedding photographer. So they feel like they really have to nail poses. Whereas you two weren't even thinking about that. That wasn't even like on your mind. It was like, let's make them have fun, and then it'll... Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's where people get caught up a lot, is that they feel like we got to have a tight, we got to have a medium, we got to have the hand on the chest or whatever, and all these things to show. And if you guys weren't even coming from that spot, I could totally see how that would come natural to you to make that experience. And I love how you said that, you know, putting this out there in the world can help many other photographers. And I can tell you that myself, it has helped me, and it has made my couples. Just my most recent review on Google was from a bride who her entire review is going through how I had them, how I created this experience of having them talk about what their life is going to be like in 20 years or so. And it was great. And, you know, it's something that I never would have thought of in the first place, but this is getting me past that, where do hands go, and, you know, what to do with elbows, and really just letting everything unfold naturally. Right. So before we go any further, I've talked about the Unposed cards a lot on the podcast, but for those who don't know, can you kind of describe what it is that they are and how to use them?
Yes.
It is a...
Wish we had a set.
Yeah.
Wait, I got mine right here. You can just look at it.
There you go. You have the bigger ones, or because now they're smaller and on a ring.
Yeah, I know. I've seen those. Those are, no, these ones they barely fit in my back pocket.
So. Yeah. Well, we
listened to our users.
Yes, and they were like, I want to put it in my pocket and I want it bound. So we're like, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deck of 41 cards, and on each one there's a photo, and the photo is evoking an emotion, or, you know, it's saying something very specific, and it's like, oh man, I love that photo, I want to get a photo like that. And then when you flip the card over, it's exactly what we said at that exact moment. And then that's on every card, and it's very strategically planned out how an arc of a shoot should go. So it starts off a little bit more fun and lighthearted, and then we start to get into the meat of things kind of in the middle, and then at the end we're like getting real deep, and we're talking about some juicy stuff, you know, and then that really leaves them just mind blown. I mean, most couples are like, wow, that was way easier than I ever thought. That was like a marriage counseling. Like, we really needed that, you know.
We get that a lot. We really needed that. And I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, with all the wedding planning and all the just craziness, it was nice to just take a moment and have you bring out this stuff in us, you know.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that, and I can relate. I've had couples parrot the exact same thing, and I can see why. However, I had no idea that they were supposed to be used in order, so mine are just kind of like all over the place.
I mean, it's, you know, and the goal is to make them your own, and you come up with your own sort of pattern or sequence.
You'll come up with your own thing.
Yeah. So
but to get back to the actual cards, so there's a photo on one side, and then what we call like a game on the back. Some are questions, some are just prompts, some are like literally physical games we have our couples play. Some are more like, hey, we want to put you in a mindset for a second. So it's just like interactions, and
because we're shooting people, you know, I think so many, it's like people were shooting product photography or maybe newborns, and then they kind of move along and graduate.
And they're like, ooh, there's a lot of money in weddings. Let's do weddings.
I should be a wedding photographer. And then it's like, man, like, we're shooting people on the biggest day of their life now. So like, you need to up your game a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot more stress for sure. Before I go into that, I kind of want to ask, I'm sure that you two have all 41 cards like totally memorized, so that when you go out, you know exactly what you're doing. You guys have been doing this for 10 years. For those just kind of getting started with the Unposed cards, do you see them bringing the cards with them and like reading them in the field, or are they trying to memorize just a few cards to do it themselves?
Well, we've seen how.
That wasn't our intent. So our intention was you should just look through them, maybe study them, memorize 2, and then use 2, and then memorize 1 more, and then add that to your like repertoire.
I love it.
But instead, people have like literally started taking them to the shoots, which
Right.
is whatever works.
Yeah, and they take them to the shoot, and they're like, "Hey guys, I have this game, this card game that we're gonna play at the shoot. So just go along. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just gonna read these cards, okay?" And then
They're saying this to their couple, and we're like, "That's so not what we thought was going to happen." But hey,
Right.
whatever works.
well, and whatever works to get it started. But I really do feel like eventually, I mean, the Unposed Field Guide was designed also to help your flow during a shoot. Bam, bam, bam. And it's like, what a flow killer. They're like, okay, guys, so next game, you know, it's
Yeah.
like,
And also to make you look like a really awesome photographer.
Of
We don't
course.
want, I don't know, great that they're promoting it or whatever, but how.
and at least you're using something.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
you're
no,
giving-
I felt the exact same way. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I struggled in the beginning. Was I like the idea of just memorizing like 2. I think I tried to take on too much. I tried to memorize like 10, and then I went out.
And you're like, I don't remember any of that. Yeah.
Right, and then you
there's
just kind of
tricks,
default.
You know, some people take a photo of all the cards and keep them locked and protected on their memory card. So that you can scroll through your memory card right before a shoot and get a refresher. Some people have them connected to their iWatch, so the couple doesn't know that they're looking down at it, and then they can go, you know.
Yeah.
But still, that's the best way. Memorize a couple, add them to what you're doing, and then see what works, see what doesn't, because you know you probably won't use all 41.
Sure.
So you'll just be adding your own shtick to them.
You'll be there for like 3 hours if you're using all the cards.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think it's and plus, like every couple or family is different, right? Some couples are more like fun and they just fall over each other, and other couples are a little bit more I don't want to say uptight, but they're more stiff
Real stiff.
or more professional. Like they're just ready for directions rather than just going with the flow. So I could see how that would dictate which cards you would want to use. So we talked about not using all 41 cards there. How many, and this doesn't necessarily just apply to the cards, but for like an engagement session, how many poses do you think that you would typically put a couple in?
How many unposes?
Yeah, I need to change my vocabulary. Yes.
I'd say we probably do about 15.
Okay, that seems fair. That seems fair. So not too many where you're trying to, I guess, give away all your secrets, because you're going to be using them at the wedding as well. But try to keep it fun and interesting. Okay,
Right.
I got
Yep.
it.
And you know, we honestly don't do that many on a wedding day. Because we go more into the whole photojournalistic mindset. There's so much joy and love already happening.
Right.
We're just capturing that, and you know.
Yeah, hopefully on their wedding day they don't need so much prompt to like love on each other because it's their when is their wedding day?
This really came from the engagement shoot. You're standing there and they're just staring at you, and
you're like, okay.
oh god.
Yeah, right. I'm the center of attention here as opposed to them. So yeah, that's definitely a different dynamic for sure. So even though we are giving people prompts rather than directions, we still have to kind of place couples or families together somehow. Do you have any tips on having couples physically interact with each other?
Kind of depends on what game you're playing, and their height difference. It's just a big one.
I would say we definitely have our go-to like 5 starting. We always call them starting positions, and then once we start talking to them or prompting them, they sort of fall into what they would naturally do, as opposed to like, can you put your hand here?
Yeah, most of the time we're kind of like, hey guys, go over there and snuggle up.
Okay, and then just let them figure that out.
They snuggle up, and then we just start playing around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. So
Like our go-tos are just like hover from the side, start chest to chest, or sit sit next to each other and cuddle up. We're kind of just very, I don't know.
It's super general.
Yeah, general.
We're just like, hey, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I really like that approach because it kind of goes back to, I guess, why you guys kind of discovered the Unposed idea, is that it's not super technical. It's not, you don't have to put too much thought into it. You don't have to figure out what to do with hips and knees.
Because when you start doing that with just normal people that aren't professional models, it looks so uncomfortable. It looks so unnatural, and
that's my favorite thing about it is I even tell new brides that reach out to us kind of about the field guide, and I start from the very first phone call, kind of like what we're going to be doing with you, and I let them know that we're really all about not imposing our vision onto you. That's what posing does. It's like it's us as the photographer making you do stuff
that you wouldn't necessarily naturally do.
And then what happens, like most photographers who have like their stock 20 poses or whatever, that's why most wedding photographers quit after like 2 years or whatever. Right. That's like average lifespan, you know. And it's because it's called burnout. You know, a lot of people ask us, how can you not get burnt out shooting all these weddings every year for 10 years? Like, and it's because we're not working. Like, I'm not putting stuff on you. We're just absorbing what each couple has to offer. And because each couple is so different, it's a new and refreshing experience every time we shoot. Like, we actually get filled up every time. I have more energy to go to the next shoot. And so it's like this reverse.
But if we had come with all these like pre-planned ideas that maybe did or didn't work out, that would be exhausting to come up with new, like, oh, I need a new, I don't know, light trick today. I just feel like that would be exhausting.
And we see that a lot. That's what happens with photographers when they're on the edge of burnout. They go, well, I think it's time for a brand change. I need to revamp my website. You know, maybe it's my logo. Maybe I need to start using prisms, or maybe I should get the new Visco pack or whatever.
Right.
And those are all distractions from just like owning up to like the human element of making an experience and just being vulnerable enough to capture that from people. It's hard for
that people. Can't get old. Just learning people's stories.
That'll never, ever.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That you guys are speaking right to the choir right now. Like, I totally get it. I kind of want to talk now a little bit about maybe families. There's a lot of photographers listening right now who do work with families. And recently you came out with an Unposed Field guide for families. Can you kind of talk about the difference between shooting a couple for an engagement session and shooting a family? Like, what are the different challenges?
Oh my gosh, families are so hard.
Yeah.
Kids are really hard. We have 4 of them, so we know how hard they are to photograph.
It's hard enough shooting 2 people, and like add in a huge age gap.
Yeah.
A wide range of emotional needs.
Or just a child with no attention span. It's really difficult. So, I mean, that whole guide came from us figuring out how to get our own kids' attention for 5 seconds.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Lots of weird, silly games.
And we never really shot families. And then when we did, we were like, hey, we'll just do our shtick that we've been doing at these engagement shoots, and we'll just say all the jokes and do all of our stuff. And then it bombed. I'm like, this didn't work. There's so many other dynamics involved. You know, one kid's crying, one kid's running around and won't sit still. You know,
it's just our daily family life, pretty much.
The dude keeps checking his cell phone to see what the score is. Like, you know, mom's trying to wrangle everybody together, and then they're looking at the photographer like, okay, come on, I thought you were like
going to put us in this one position. So how do you get over that? Is it still with games?
Yes. So
they're just different games.
Yeah, and I mean I love the Family Field Guide, and what's funny is we like if I was to go do a family shoot tonight, I probably would take it with me and to just look at it again. Because it really does work. But it's like how to keep the whole family focused, and the best way to do that is getting everyone involved together. And there might be 6 people, there might just be 3 people. It doesn't matter. The games were designed for any number.
Yeah.
But it's getting everybody focused on one thing. Get off the camera. Focus together as a family, working together as a team to figure out something, or let's all gang up against dad. Let's all maybe talk about dad and his bad habits. So then everything's like, oh, cool, we get to pick on dad. Dad's laughing, and then bam, I get this amazing real photo.
Sure.
Of the family talking about that time dad did whatever on
Which
vacation.
Which is so much easier than getting a little 3-year-old to smile. So
yeah,
same idea. Just different set of games.
Yeah, it's impossible to get 5 people looking at the camera at the same time without blinking and smiling.
It's insane, right? It's insane how hard it is.
Why even? Don't even try. Yeah. Just capture them more in just a natural.
So I guess my next question is, obviously you two are known by your couples and your families for this style of shooting that you do and interaction. But is there ever a time where maybe a couple says, we really want some like camera aware photos? And if so, what do you do in that situation?
We just say, okay, we need to do some shots for mom.
Mm-hmm. And then just have them just nice and close, just look at the camera and.
Yeah. This one's for the paper, Yeah.
And we always crack a joke, like wherever they're from, I'll just make up a paper name. So like, I might say, hey, this is for the Indianapolis Gazette or something. Right. You're like, oh, that doesn't even exist. And then bam, I get a good photo. Like you just
some like,
gotcha.
We always do some posed ones because grandma and mom, sometimes they're not so hip on like our style.
Of course. Yeah. I know.
And we don't want them giving us the stink eye all day at the wedding.
Right.
Yeah. No, I too always make sure that they know that like we're gonna be doing this. It's gonna be very natural, and you guys are just gonna unfold in front of the camera, but we're still gonna get a few parent pleasers, and they're like, oh, okay, got it. Yeah. We're all
and that's what we I feel like we're really good at. It's some people are afraid to go full on unposed because they're like, well, I want to get in all the blogs and the magazines, and I want to still be commercial. I don't want to be so natural or whatever. And I think we're a good mix. Like we still do the commercial and still get those stock shots because it still is a wedding. Like
sure, of course.
You're still documenting a certain kind of event, so it's not all just organic,
Yeah, you just find your groove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. So for beginners who are just starting out, maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't shoot enough to purchase the Unposed Field guide, right? Maybe they have a coworker who asked them to take some photos, or a family member. Do you have any tips on what they could do to start posing? Or unposing?
Yeah.
See, I'm figuring it out.
Like you were saying before, don't go into a wedding or a shoot with like your stock list in your head. And I think my best advice is just continually talk to the person you're shooting. Ask them questions. Talk. Get to know this person.
Yeah. Once again, all about making them feel comfortable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Put the camera. The camera is secondary. The camera is just a tool. Mm-hmm. If you really love people and you love connection, and then the camera is just there. So like, you should just go into a shoot and just genuinely love people. And you just like, hey, like if I was shooting you now, I'd be like, hey bro, what's up? LA, you got an LA hat, man. That's cool.
Dodgers, woo!
Yeah. Boom, look, you're smiling already.
Absolutely. Look at that. Whenever I think about the Dodgers, I have another one right here just in case this one gets lost. Yeah.
And like, I don't even have a camera in my hand. I'd be like, hey man, I love your glasses or whatever, dude. Like, I don't know.
I don't know if you can tell, but they're Dodger blue. So just got to wrap everything together. I get it. Yeah.
Really care about that person and get them talking about themselves and compliment like crazy. Just compliment always.
Because being in front of the camera is awkward.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we totally get that. We try to be on the other side a couple times a year just to like feel how weird that feels. So
yeah, I think we're on the same page. My wife and I just got some family photos done as well, and I was like, "Ooh, let's see how
how's
this
that?
goes." And it was it was an experience for sure.
Yeah.
So, what was my next question? I just had it. So the next question I was gonna ask was, what's a tip that you have, like when you first meet with a couple? Say that you don't have any sort of interaction with them face to face before the engagement session. So the engagement session is the first time where you're meeting this couple. Is there something that you do to really get them comfortable in front of the camera first, or do you just start off and hope that the poses kind of do their job?
Yeah, that's just a little thing called alcohol.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, okay.
You know?
Meet at a brewery, get some cocktails. I got you. Okay.
It's funny, we tell people that come to the workshop too, like I think we did one client meeting ever in 10 years.
Yeah.
And mostly because we turned into, we were one of the top destination wedding photographers, right? So you don't meet people.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time you just meet them on the wedding day. So, but when we go to an engagement shoot, we just had one last night. We always meet for drinks.
Even if they don't drink, meet for a coffee, meet.
Yeah.
Before you start.
Just get together. We usually spend an hour talking and an hour shooting. An hour at the bar, an hour shooting.
Because how awkward to just show up in a field and be like, "Hi, I'm Meg. Nice to meet you." Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I think that's where that question came from, is most people are thinking about it purely from photography rather than the experience, which once again, you two are obviously all about. All of these questions that I'm throwing at you, all of your answers have just been like, just make a better experience. Just better experience, and people are going to enjoy themselves more. So,
and because you genuinely care, like you should want to meet before, so you can just get their vibe and ask them questions. And
you find so much just in 40 minutes of talking to someone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, how is this really going to go? Okay, they have trouble with PDA, or I'm getting the vibe that they're a little more conservative, so I won't like say some of the
I won't
jokes
pull the curve card.
Right.
You know?
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So okay.
As we're sitting there drinking, like that's going through our mind, like, okay, this one probably going to play these games, probably not going to go here. Okay, cool.
And then right after we're done with a drink, we say, okay, we've got a speech for you guys, and usually that's when they're kind of like, oh, what's that? And basically we just say like, tonight's not going to be your typical photo shoot. It's just us hanging out. We're going to like walk through a field, play some games, super low key. We're just going to have fun. Yeah. And we just like really downplay it.
I love that.
Like, hey, we're just hanging out and we're just going to get what we get. And, it takes the pressure off of us. It takes the pressure off of them. And we're just like, whew,
we even tell them, we're like, this tonight is to get that one shot. It's mostly for us to get comfortable with each other. So when we show up on the wedding day, it's like, hey, Josh and Meg are here. Hey, what's up? But really tonight at the engagement shoot's for one shot that really says, hey, this is us. And they go, oh, okay, cool. Like you see the weight just get lifted off. This is only for like one great shot. Oh, this will be easy.
I'd never thought of it before, but yeah, I mean, I guess a couple really only has like one Facebook profile photo.
Yeah. Or just probably frame two of them, and then like 5 years later, maybe you only just have one that's hanging around. I mean,
sure.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That already that makes me feel a lot less pressure, so I can imagine how much that would make the couple.
Photographer as well,
Right,
that really does help. I mean, we don't talk about it a lot, but it is the vibe. Like the vibe, they're trusting you to make them feel comfortable, so you have to be just so laid back and comfortable.
Just oozes out of your pores that they feel it.
Yeah, like when they come to the bar, we're huggers, big hug. We feel them feeling awkward, but we're from
but we do it anyway.
We're breaking down the walls,
Tell them what you do at the you always make them kiss.
Oh, I always make them kiss at the bar. So I always leave the cameras in the car, but they'll be sitting across from me. And then once we get towards the end of drinks, I'll be like, how are you guys with PDA? And this tells me a whole lot.
Sure.
And then I'll be like, okay, cool. We'll kiss now then. Just kiss.
Yeah.
Just get in front of me. And even
most of the time they're like, what? Wait, what?
And then we do not leave the bar until they have kissed in front of me.
Oh,
so I'm like, no,
genius.
Kiss right now. And then finally they'll be like, oh, okay. And even though it'll look awkward and reluctant and bad, it's just another wall I broke down, because in 10 minutes when I'm really shooting them,
then they've already done it.
Like subconsciously, they're already past that point. They've already kissed in front of me, and they, now they're feeling even more comfortable. So during the drinks is when we really set the tone, ask all the juicy questions, and then people love talking about themselves.
Wow. Yeah, no, for sure.
Talking to ourselves right now. I love it. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
When it comes to, obviously you guys talked about making this experience, which I love, but surely I'm willing to bet that you two have had an embarrassing moment, either at an engagement session or a wedding. Is there anything that is top of mind right now that you can think of that you'd be happy to share?
We've had some grooms. So some of our questions are like, for example, on the count of 3, where did you two have your first date? Mm-hmm. And then you say 1, 2, 3, and they say it out loud at the same time. And the groom just like bombs it. And then he bombs it again, and then he'll bomb it again. And then he starts feeling like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Bad about himself. And that has happened once where the groom like looked at us and was like, no more questions.
Yeah.
It was like really mad.
No more personal questions. And so, of course, we just keep going.
Yeah.
We just keep drilling,
Who's the messier one here? Like, oh, come on. Yeah.
Yep. What's really crazy? This might be off subject, but like it's the power of shooting this way. We've had some couples get divorced, and we've gotten really long emails and voicemails thanking us, because it was 2 years ago at the engagement shoot when I realized that we weren't meant for each other.
Oh, whoa.
But I went through it anyway.
We went through it anyway. I couldn't cancel the wedding.
Like, seriously, we've had this several times.
And then they're like, but when I think back to it, you guys, with the games we were playing and the probing questions you were asking, it really brought out the truth of our relationship. And that's when I realized that he wasn't the one. And so I'm sending you this email not to be a downer, but to really to praise you and to thank you for anybody could have just come in and taken some snapshots and said, great, see you at the wedding, here's a few poses, but you guys really dug deep.
What's funny is that we know after we leave that set, like I knew that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like I think our style of shooting it will amplify whatever's going on. If you really love each other, man. Like he'll come home from a shoot and be like, whoa, that did not go well. And then 2 months later, they're going to be like, we canceled the wedding. And we're like, yep, knew it.
That's happened numerous times. But like, if you really love each other, we just fan the fire,
Sure.
If you're really maybe not meant for each other, it is going to be exposed in the first 5 minutes of shooting.
It's like therapy, kind of.
Yeah. Like they said, it's like marriage counseling.
Yeah. That feels super good to know we're making a difference. And then that's a whole nother podcast episode. But like,
he was asking about embarrassing moments.
True. Embarrassing moments.
No, I
mean, one guy would never close his eyes.
Oh yeah. He's
Wait, what?
Yeah. He wouldn't close his eyes. And the bride was like, come on, babe, it's for us. Let's just get into it. Come on, close your eyes. And then she was like, nobody has to know. And then he was like, yeah, but we'll know it exists. We'll know the photo exists. And we were like,
I'm so confused. What is happening?
So sometimes you'll hit a roadblock. We call those people roadblocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just got to keep pushing through. We've had roadblocks, push through, and then the groom emailed us after a month later and was like, "Sorry for being awkward at the wedding. I felt super uncomfortable, but I love the photos, and now I see what you were doing, and thank you so much. Those are my photos ever." So even if you do get a roadblock, you just have to keep going, keep pushing, because it's your duty to make a difference with your camera. You just have to.
I don't think that we can go any higher than that. That was like super motivational. That was inspirational and everything. Yeah, I mean that was perfect right there. I really want to thank you two so much for your time. I don't want to take up your entire afternoon for sure. Can you let the listeners know where they can find you online and more about the Unposed Field Guide?
Yeah, you can check out the Unposed Field Guide at unposedfieldguide.com. And we don't have a specific Instagram for that, but you can like look up hashtag Unposed, and there's lots there. Our wedding photography site is loveisabigdeal.com. And once you buy the Unposed Field Guide, then you're invited to be part of the private Facebook group where anyone who's purchased is part of that group. And that's where we get on there sometimes and talk.
Yeah, we just give advice.
Other people come up with new games that they share.
It's nice. It's kind of
Unposed photos.
It's like a virtual field guide. It could be like a never-ending.
Right. Yeah. I saw yesterday the one where have the couple kiss with their teeth, which I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, and that wasn't ours, and someone came up with that, and
I laughed.
People love it. Like,
those photos are great. I'm literally going to use that phrase tomorrow at an engagement session.
Yeah. We do it at every shoot. It's hilarious. So we do get a lot of people that are like, oh man, it's X amount of money for the field guide, and I'm only getting 41 cards. We're like, hey, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, you're only going to do 10 probably. Yeah. But it's actually hundreds and thousands of games that will never end in the Facebook group. So,
well, not only that, like I'm not here to like toot your guys' horn or anything, as much as I really appreciate everything that you've done. But I can tell you personally that was my biggest reason for holding off at first. That was my what's the word I'm looking for? Reservation, I guess.
Yeah.
But once I purchased them, and like you said, the amount of cards, the amount of information there that I never would have thought of on my own, it released the stress from me of having to come up with poses for a couple.
Right.
That alone was worth the money. And now that I'm getting reviews, like I mentioned earlier, from brides, specifically referencing poses that we did with the Unposed Field Guide, it's like, that's priceless. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if they would have left a review that was like, hey, 5 stars, Raymond was great, enjoyed my time, and that was it, that's fine. But it's different than having a 4-paragraph review of the experience that was created through the photography. So
I think people put their priorities with like their gear or maybe their editing software as far as like that's where they want to spend their money. But you can get all that like expensive stuff. You can get all the latest editing presets, but if you're just taking bad photos
in the music business, we call that polishing a turd.
Yeah, if you're just then you want to start with the photo.
Yeah,
and I think where Unposed gets to the heart of that.
We could do an engagement shoot all on just my phone and do the Unposed Field Guide, and it would be amazing. It would be real and authentic and raw and emotional.
That would be a great blog post right there, is the entire engagement session done on a cell phone. Yeah, you should think about that for sure. Guys, again, I really want to thank you so much for your time and everything that you've shared. I really appreciate you guys coming on. And I look forward to seeing everything that you guys have in the future and keeping up with you.
You too. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Wasn't that refreshing? Wasn't that the most refreshing take on posing that you have ever heard? I can tell you that when I first got into photography, the first couple, it was actually a family who I got in front of my camera. It was so awkward that I kind of swore off it for a while. I was like, oh, this is so weird that I don't want to keep doing this. And that really prevented me from progressing in my photography in the years to follow. And I'm really glad that I decided to get over that and just try again, because otherwise I wouldn't be where I'm at today. But if I would have started with these cards, these unposed cards, and tried it this way from the beginning, I guarantee you I would be in a completely different spot in my business. I would probably be further along, as I would have been focusing more on the experience rather than just what is technically perfect with, looking soft or looking masculine. And that's kind of what I don't want to say wasted, but what I spent a lot of my years kind of focusing on. And really just none of that means anything, because it doesn't matter how masculine or feminine you make somebody look if that's not genuine to who they are. And these cards bring out that actual personality, and it is so great to see. So Meg, Josh, if you are listening right now, man, thank you two so much for coming on. And honestly, I know that I've told you this a million times, but thank you for sharing everything that you did. It was truly a pleasure speaking with both of you. And I know that the listener got a ton of great information and value out of everything that you shared. So I kind of want to go. I know that I teased about it in the beginning, but Meg and Josh have been incredibly gracious as to give away one of their Unposed Field guides. So there's the Unposed Field guide for couples, like for all like engagement photos, things like that, and then for families as well, which depending on your style of photography, you can go either direction. But guess what? It is the only way that you can win this is if you are part of the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. And here's my favorite part. If you didn't have a reason before to join the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, like if you were waiting for maybe like a really cool prize before you decided to join the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, well, guess what? You missed out, because this is only going to the winner of March's monthly photo theme challenge, which was for anticipation. Now it's April 2nd, which means you missed out. If you are not part of the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group already, like before today, you missed out. There's no way that you can win. But guess what? This is going to happen again in the future. So you better go ahead and become a member of the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. And you can do that simply by searching Facebook for Beginner Photography Podcast. It'll show up. You just answer 2 questions. That's it. I just want to make sure that you're not going to come in and try to sell sunglasses or whatever it is, body wraps or anything like that. I just want to make sure that you're a genuine person and that you're truly interested in photography. And when future contests come up, you will have your chance to win as long as you participate. So to everybody listening who already is a member of the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, guess what? This Friday, I'm doing a Facebook Live in the group critiquing your photos. Once again, I know this is super popular with you guys. And the winner, which is also chosen by the group, will win a set of the Unposed Field guide cards. And these, I'm serious guys, these are game changers. They're not sponsors of the podcast. Like, this is my genuine feeling about these cards. They are game changers and you're truly going to love them. I have left links to everything that Meg and Josh have talked about in the show notes of today's podcast, which obviously they already talked about. You can go there if you want, or head over to the show notes, click the link there. Otherwise, I want you to get out there. I am feeling motivated. I am super excited for this engagement session that I have tomorrow morning. It just breathes new life in me to do this. It's this excitement that comes back to it, right? Sometimes the business takes away from the excitement of photography. So to put that excitement back into the photography just reminds me why I'm doing this. And once again, I'm excited. So hope that you have a little bit of that passion come through in you as well. Hope that you get out there. I want you guys to shoot. I want you guys to try something new. I love you all. That's it. I will see you again next week. See ya.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. Be sure to join the conversations on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want any links or resources we talked about in today's episode, check out the show notes at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. See you again next week.